Welcome back to the Pursuit Zone podcast. I'm Paul Schmid, and I interview explorers that dream big, break out of their comfort zones, and take on ambitious pursuits. This is episode 203 with Snežana Radojičić, where we talk about the cycling adventure that she's been on since 2011. Some of the countries we talk about in this episode are Turkey, Cambodia, Vietnam, China, where she lived for a year and taught English, Japan, which is one of her favorite destinations and can also be a very low-cost destination for cyclists if you know some of the tricks, as well as North Korea and South Korea. So let's start the show, and let me introduce my guest. When she was little, she dreamed of becoming a writer. But by her early 40s, after dozens of jobs from teaching to real estate to selling insurance, she wondered why she had lost sight of that dream. So in 2011, she set out from Belgrade, Serbia, on an old 8-speed mountain bike with a budget of €5 per day to begin cycling around the world. Along the way, she overcame many hardships, but she took time off when needed to rest, earn money, and most importantly, to begin writing books about her journey. 9 years later, she has cycled in over 40 countries and is currently in South America with plans to cycle to Alaska. You can learn more at her website, snežanaradojičić.com. Snežana Radojičić, welcome to the Pursuit Zone.
Thank you. Thanks for your invitation.
Snežana, where did you grow up?
I grew up in former Yugoslavia. You know, we were a communist, actually socialist country, but not behind the Iron Curtain. That's very important to know. For example, we could travel abroad with no any special permits. We could listen to rock and punk music. We could wear jeans. We could buy Coca-Cola or everything. For example, I grew up in a working class family, but I never missed anything. We went to the seaside every summer or to the mountains every winter. We had free education and health care. We got an apartment from the state. Later, I studied on a budget. And altogether, I can say that I had a very happy childhood and youth in the country that provide us countless opportunities.
When you were older and you were working some of those jobs that I mentioned, which of those jobs was your favorite?
During my studies in late 80s and early 90s, Yugoslavia fell apart. It started the civil war, and it was a horrible time for all nations there. And we didn't actually, in Serbia, we didn't have war on our territory, but we suffer economic sanction from Western countries, later NATO bombing, and many troubles we had in that time. In that time, we had also huge inflation, worse than in Germany after Second World War. For example, I've been working for 6 years in the school as a teacher in a secondary school. I've been teaching world literature and Serbian language. And my salary was in the morning like 100 Deutschmarks. In that time, we still had Deutschmarks. And in the evening, when I finished my work, it was like the 10 marks because of due to huge inflation, and they couldn't buy anything. In that time, actually, I was like 25 or something, and I wanted to separate of my parents to start living alone. And then I rent apartment, and of course I couldn't pay that. So I left that job and started looking for another jobs. And since that time, I have changed about 10 different jobs. And the longest I stay in insurance companies, in the beginning as like seller, and later I become like training manager. And I've been working that for 8 years. But my favorite job, of course, is in my profession, what is teaching. And when you ask me why, or if you ask me why, I mean, it's very simple because kids are, I used to say that kids are constant injection of adrenaline, you know, you get it a lot in your class and you're full of energy all the time. And I think it's one of the most valuable jobs in the world to teach young people.
How did this idea to quit the job and travel the world by bicycle come about?
Well, it wasn't an easy decision. You already said that I was in my 40s when I decided to quit my job, and let's say that turned my life upside down. In those years, it's not decision like overnight decision. That's a process that may take years. But long story in short, I think I was for a long time unsatisfied with my life, but I wasn't aware of it. That was the problem. And one night it suddenly happened. I just remember one night, it was before New Year, I think 29 or 28. And I just recall what my late father used to repeat me when I was very young. He repeats that the most important thing in life is to follow your dreams. When I was young, I thought it was impossible to live a different way. And I always wondered why he kept repeating it, you know. But then I found myself in 40 something, that I didn't even know what my dream was. And I got it. I lost it in meantime. So that night I asked myself, what was my dream? And I couldn't recall my dream. I even didn't know what does it mean, dream. Oh, come on, who is dreaming? That's for kids. That's not for adults. You know, I have to struggle with real problems in real life. But that question just didn't leave me for a couple of weeks. And in the end, I answered to myself, and answer was, okay, all my life, I wanted to live freely and to live outside of all systems, like outsider, and to write books. Of course, next question was, why don't you do that? Did you even try to make that dream come true? And of course, I had 100,000 of excuses why I didn't do that. However, in the end, I admitted to myself that I had done nothing. And then I decided that I will try to make my dream come true. And that time I didn't know how, only that I had to do that. And I thought if I fail, at least I will know I tried.
So you wanted to, your dream was to write books. Did you decide to go on a cycling adventure because you thought this would allow me to have the stories that I need to write the books?
Yeah, that was one of reasons. But there are many reasons. First, I like doing outdoor. I already did a lot of outdoors, and I cycle, I climb a lot. And I also was a member in that time already, a member of Warm Shower. So I host some people on their long distance tours by bicycle. And I was quite familiar with that. But I had two biggest concerns about decision to take a road by myself. I was alone. I thought that a lone woman cannot travel. And another, my concern was about money. I didn't have money. So I spent a lot of time to reading blogs of other cyclists to find solution for myself, how they done it. And, you know, you can find a lot of different information. So I tried to figure out how to provide enough money for me, or can I travel like a lone woman, and how much is dangerous, how much is safe, and things like that. And yeah, that was actually only thing I thought in that time. If I'm a man or if I have money, I will start immediately.
Well, you did eventually get started with a very low budget, and you started cycling with a man.
Mm-hmm.
But that partnership, you and your cycling partner, you only cycled together for, I think, 8 months before that ended. So now at that point, you have to make a decision. Do I quit or do I continue? What was it? Was that a hard decision?
Yeah, of course. It was a hard decision because I love that man. We met over the site Crazy Guy on a Bike. It's the biggest cycling portal in the world. And after I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 years of trying to find a company in my country and abroad, I put ad on that site. And Brian, that's name of his, that his name, he sent me a message and we start chatting. After that, Skype, and then he came to Belgrade. We did a test tour on Sicily, and it was nice. So we fall in love and we started together that tour around the world. And 8 months on the road is a long time. It's like, 8 years in normal conditions because they're extreme. We live in extreme situations. We sleep in tent, in same tent. We can't leave each other if we have some like argue or something. You cannot just go and come back after 2-3 hours. You have to stay all day and all night together, and it's really a big challenge. And unfortunately, I met much more couples who broke on the road than people who met on the road and they are still together on the road. So it was very hard for me because my self-confidence was very small in that time, and I still didn't have enough money. And, I'm from Balkan and we are very patriarchal still. And I still believe in that time that as a lone woman, I cannot do a lot of that things. But then, I thought in this way, okay, my dream was to don't have more excuses why I don't write my stories. So that was one of the main reasons why I took a road. Another one is to have enough interesting happens to talk about. And Brian is someone who came after that. It could be anyone, not Brian. So if I lost man I love, I don't want to lose my dream. That's only mine. That's only what depends only of me. So only I can make it true. Nobody else. And then I decide, okay, I will continue because that's my dream. I can say I had a lot of problems because of that, because some of my friends, they were very disappointed. Some friends, a group of cyclists, they bought flight tickets. They wanted to help me. Yeah, and they were like disappointed when I decide I will continue. So yeah, it was very, very difficult.
Yeah, obviously that's a very stressful situation to have be in a relationship and be under those stresses. I can see how it can break people apart. But you did continue. And of course, we've mentioned this on a very, very low budget. So you had to get a job while you were in Russia. And I found this I was curious about this because you mentioned it as not a very fun job to do. Can you tell me about this job? What were you doing?
I speak a bit Russian because my language, Serbian language and Russian language are same group of languages. And I learned Russian on my university as well. But of course, I forgot a lot. I spoke that enough good to can find a simple job, but not such a good to can find a really good job. So I found job to work as a seller, street seller. I was selling a kvass. Kvass is a Russian drink like beer, but without alcohol. It's traditional Russian drink. I had a place next to a saleswoman of a competing company, but her company provide to her like a refrigerator and umbrella, what I didn't have. And around 10 in the morning, it's summer. It was in Taganrog, place, what is born place of Chekhov, writer, the famous novel writer in the world. And it's very warm there. It's on the Black Sea coast. Around 10 a.m., my kvass was already lukewarm and disgusting taste, and no one wanted to drink it. And everyone was buying at another place. And it wasn't my fault, of course, but I felt really bad because of that. And of course, I didn't earn anything. And it's happened for many days. But it was only my solution. Yeah, not a long time. Only I think 10 days, 9 days, something like that. Because I have really big luck that some people offer me accommodation after that. I think they were couch surfers, And they found me and they offer me, and I stay in their place and they provide me food for free. So it was much better.
Well, when you look back now on that first year of travel, what are kind of your favorite, or like what's your most favorite memory?
I think, no doubt, it was Turkey. I stay alone in Turkey. Brian left me in Turkey after 1 month traveling in Turkey together. And one of my biggest concern when we broke was how I will continue alone, because it's Muslim country. I had a lot of stereotypes about that country. And I mentioned my friends. They sent me messages like, run away from that place. Are you crazy? How are they? They're Muslims and so on. But then when I continue, I cycle through continental Turkey, but it's not touristic area, there are mountains and villages. It's deep countryside. And then I reach Black Sea coast and follow that coast to Georgia. And I spent 2 months alone in Turkey. And for 2 months, I maybe pitched my tent 10 times or less. All the time, people offer me to stay in their places. Sometimes they gave me keys of their summer houses, or 2 times they hosted me in hotels for free. They organize escort. They following me. They wait for me in city I reach, and then they follow me to another city. And sometimes it was too much. I just beg them, okay, please leave me alone. I don't need so big protection. But that time was very, very important to me, because after all that bad things happened to me, I realized that I can continue by myself, and that world is much better place than I believed. And my second book I wrote, it's about Turkey and that great time I had there. And I can say sorry, thanks to Turk people, I'm still on the road. If I was in another country, a less friendly country, or maybe less open-minded country with more bad experience, I would probably give up.
I always hear good things from other cyclists about Turkey. They have the best hospitality.
Yeah.
Around the second year mark or so, you have this, what seems to be really a great bit of luck with this Q portal the Q Sphere portal that you talk about on your website. And now you have this opportunity to be paid to travel. So tell me a little bit about the Q Sphere opportunity, but also like at what point in the journey did you start like writing about your experiences?
From very beginning, from first day actually of tour, I wrote my blog on my website, but also I copy all that articles to B92 blog. What is in that time, it was the most visited portal in Serbian and ex-U population abroad, who lives abroad. So many people follows me so that I will not give up. They already knew that I broke with brand, that I stay with no money. And when that happened, they asked me actually how to help to me. And they asked for my banking account. I was like, no, it's not a good way for me. And then I made action like you can donate €1 for 1 kilometer of my tour. And they collect like 800 euros, what was wow for me. I could travel 3 months with that money. And very soon after that, one guy from that portal, who is blogger as well, and he's very successful man, IT professional from London. He's originally from Serbia. He made that Q-Sphere portal, and he offered me to write for them. And then I sent my old articles in Serbian, sometimes not edited at all, and her daughter translate that into the English because he want her to practicing her Serbian, because she's born in UK and she doesn't speak well Serbian. So they pay me in advance. For example, they published that blog. It was online like in, I don't know, April of 2015 or 14. I'm not sure. But I already wrote for them 1 year, and they paid me for 1 year. And that was amazing. First time I could travel with any problems. They pay very well for that. I think they just wanted to help me,
During this time, you're spending you're in Southeast Asia for part of this. You spent 4 months in Cambodia. What's your most memorable moment in Cambodia?
Yeah, I spent a long time there because I wanted to write my book there, and I started writing, but it wasn't enough good, so I continued cycling. And I crossed northern Cambodia to Thailand. As far as you probably know, northern Cambodia was the last stronghold of the Khmer Rouge. There are fields of that there. In Pol Pot era, he pushed farmers to put mines into the land, and him, Pol Pot, and his Iron Brothers, how he called them, forced all intellectuals and opponents of regime to run across those fields. And when they blew up, and that was theater, horrible theater. And still they have a lot of landmines there, and it's very risky. All travelers know that it's very risky to camp there. If you moved 10 centimeters far from any path or road, you can blow up because it's very, very dangerous. So it was a big challenge for me because, I'm a lone woman on the road, and I always try to stay hidden. And if I cannot put my tent in some remote area, then I don't feel safe. On the other hand, I can't put that in Cambodia because I have to stay on the road, on the visible places, because I don't want to die. So it was hard. Yeah, hard time.
Was there anything that you enjoyed about Cambodia?
Oh, yeah, a lot of things. Cambodians are nice people, and they have great country. And I stayed for a long time in a place called Kep, what is near to Vietnamese border. It's very cheap country, and they're funny, actually, people. In all Asian country, when they see you, you're a white foreigner, what means you're walking ATM machine. So they try to charge you a lot first day, but second day in Cambodia, they charge half of that price. And third day, you get whatever you want with normal price. So you make friendships very, very easy. And they're friendly people, very nice people. And one interesting detail about them, they can call police if you are angry and if you yell. You can talk loud, and they're very loud people. But if you show a negative emotion, they can call police.
That's one of the things that I noticed in your reading through your website was that you always have to be on guard for people trying to, the expression we use here is rip you off, trying to take your money or to take advantage of you by charging you more money. Have you learned over time to get better at dealing with those situations?
Not really, because you have to learn language first. It's annoying, and I hate that. But then I realized when I was in China, I complained a lot about that. Chinese people told me that's the same for Chinese people from another provinces. So it's not only against foreigners. It's, I think, common everywhere in the world. If in Belgrade, when you come to Belgrade and taxi driver realize that you're a foreigner, of course, he will charge you much more than local people. So that's everywhere in the world. And I'm not good in bargaining at all. I just accept that price they say, and if I'm angry, I will not buy again there. I will change place.
By year 3, now you're getting into Nepal, and here you decide to do a cycle of the Annapurna Circuit Trek, which can be anywhere from 160 to 230 kilometers. Now, this is where most people hike this, but you decide to cycle it, or at least you're pushing your bike through parts of it. And tell me about, what was that like to be on that trek?
Yeah. Well, it's not a bike route, but I didn't know that in that time. There are some routes, very high routes like Karakoram Highway, or I don't know. In India, you have some very, very high points you can reach by bicycle, but Annapurna is not for bicycle. It's hiking route. And when I realized it was already too late to go back. It was easier for me to continue. And yeah, it was one of the most difficult experiences. I don't know. I won't ride my bike again there, but I will again go there to just hike that path because, it's super steep and it's narrow paths and it's not for bicycle. It is for bicycle if you have like special bicycle, like a mountain bike with full suspensions, and if some porter bring your belongings and everything, and you don't have any weight, only your bicycle, maybe small backpack for water or something like that. And if you do downhill, and if you are extreme like cyclists, that's okay. But for long tour cycling, it's not cycling route. It doesn't work. You push your bicycle like 40 or 50% of the time. It doesn't make sense.
After you were completed with that, I think you then went to Pokhara, where you spent some time to write your first book. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, I stayed there for 6 months.
How did you enjoy that process of writing that first book?
I published 2 books before I took a road. I published first book when I was 25 and second book when I was 35. And I already had some experience in writing books. But first time in 2014, I wanted to write a novel, and it was big novel. And it means that you have to self-isolate, like in this condition, to stay in one place for 5-6 months, to work every day, to push yourself to work, to don't move anywhere. Because if you make a longer break, maybe 1-2 days maximum, but if you make a longer break, you will just lose that concept, and it's very, very hard. I like to write, but it's very hard job. And many times during my writing, I thought if I couldn't have all that years behind me of cycling and pushing my bicycle on such a steep hills in Central Asia, especially, what is experience, from that experience, I learned that I have to be persistent, that I can give up only once, but every time when I don't give up, I win. That's the main lesson I learned on the road. And it's helped me a lot when I write my book, because so many times I wanted to give up, but I already had, after 3 years of the road, I already had that in my blood. Just go straight forward and it doesn't matter how slow are you, just go. Just don't give up. And it's helped me to finish my book. It has 350 pages. It's a lot. It's a hard job to write all that. But yeah, my cycling experience, my touring experience helped me in that.
Now, when you say novel, to me, that means it's fiction. Is it a fiction or is it a true story of your cycling experience?
I actually wrote a novel based on real facts, but it is a novel. It is not a travel story.
You decided to self-publish that book. Was that a challenge for you?
Yes and no. I mentioned I already published 2 books before I started that tour. And with my first book, with my first manuscript, actually, I won on the biggest competition, literary competition in former Yugoslavia. And I was something like young hoop. And all doors in literary world were open for me. So I could publish my book in biggest publishing houses. What's happened after 2 issue or 3 issue of that book. But, they charge a lot and you cannot earn a lot of money. If you have big auditorium, if you have a lot of followers, I work on that for 3 years. I made a big community, like thousands of people follows me. And if you can sell your book by yourself, you don't need actually publishing house. And then I published by myself, and I came back to Serbia. I left my bicycle and everything and just came back for 2 or 3 months. That year I organized, with help of my friend, we organized about 30 or something like lectures, and in all former Yugoslavia, what is great because we speak same language. They can understand me and they follow me also. Then I gave a lot of speeches there, and Okay, I told about my decision and about my tour, about some countries, but also it's kind of coaching, because many people find out that my speeches they inspired them to do something for themselves, something what they were dreaming about for all their life, but they never decide to do that. And after that, of course, I sell my books and people buy my books. So I earn a lot of money. I mean, a lot. I earn like money for 1 year of traveling or 2 years of traveling. And I publish 2 or 3 issues of that book. And after that, when I continue cycling, when I came back on the road, I sell copyrights to the biggest publishing house in Serbia. I just want to have some book in some of my books in big publishing house in Serbia. But I don't earn almost anything of that 6 or 7 issues. I earn much more from my 2 issues.
So continuing on with the cycling adventure, years 4 and 5, you're continuing to cycle in Asia. You spend some time cycling in Vietnam. What do you remember about Vietnam?
Actually, I cycle just a little bit in Vietnam, maybe a month. But I spent 6 months in Hanoi in an apartment where I was writing my new book about that time I spent in Turkey 2 or 3 years before. And I'm sorry for this, but I didn't like Vietnam too much. People are very nice there, but in the same time, they're kind of annoying because of their way. I know a lot, and I saw how it's working, that U.S. people have a complex relation with Vietnamese, very complex feelings, modern Americans towards Vietnam. But in reality, it's quite different there because my impression was that many modern Vietnamese, they use that situation that I think U.S. still paying something to Vietnam after Vietnam War. I had feeling that Vietnamese expect that something belongs to them just because they're Vietnamese, and that they have proved to us of Western people, because they don't, of course, know the time from Serbia, and that, I don't know, someone is from maybe UK or Norway or not from US. We are all white people, and we are all for them like US people. And they expect all the time from us. They expect money. They expect to pay for something. They're really kind and charming, and everything is nice, but they just have to take money of you, it's something I really didn't like. I felt that the most in Vietnam. I already told that it's everywhere in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, but I felt that a lot in Vietnam.
One of the things that people always usually are positive about on Vietnam is the food. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, food is really nice, but they put a lot of spices. That's what I don't like, actually. I prefer more Thai food of all that Southeast Asian countries. Thai food, for me, it's the best. It's also spicy, but even if it's not spicy, it's very tasty. While in Vietnam or China, if you ask them to prepare food with no spices, sometimes they will deny that. They will say it's not same food, and it's not same food.
This was also a time that I think you cycled in Japan. How much time did you spend in Japan, and what do you remember about cycling there?
I spent 6 months in Japan, cycling for the northernmost point of mainland Japan to the southernmost point of the mainland Japan, and then I cycled Okinawa Island. And in the end, I spent 1 month just camping in one small island near Okinawa. And Japan is my favorite country. I often say that there are many different countries in the world and a planet, Japan, because Japan is planet by itself. All foreigners who have visited Japan, they have the same impression about that country, especially about people, Japanese. People were the biggest surprise for me because, we all have some stereotypes about Japanese. They're like, cold and not friendly but actually it's opposite. They're incredible kind, they're quiet, they're benevolent, The biggest problem in relationship between Japanese people and foreigners is they don't speak English. Very few people, maybe in Tokyo, they speak English, while in countryside it's very hard to find someone who can speak basic English. And the main category in all Eastern world is saving face opposite losing face. You lose your face if you don't know something, if you can't respond, if you say something negative, if you change your behavior, if you are not calm, if you are not positive, And that's mean if I'm foreigner, I'm obviously foreigner. And if I ask you something and you're Japanese and you can't answer me because you don't speak English, you will lose your face, especially if someone see you. So it's better to skip that situation. But if you find way to make contact with them and just to relax them, they're incredible kind people. And many times it's happened to me. They just gave me food and ran away. Just anything. They just put food in front of me and ran away. 2 or 3 times it's happened to me. They offer me to stay in their houses, what is absolutely incredible, because it's not like in Western world. In Eastern world, houses are really private space. And even, kids, they don't, if you have, son, his girlfriend never come to your house. They have lover hotels. They go there, but not to the house. But it's happened to me 2 or 3 times. They found me, some Japanese, they found me in parks because I used to camp in parks. All foreigners camp in parks because it's very safe country. And it's not forbidden to camp in parks. They have toilets, sometimes showers, and you can use that everything for free, of course. And they found me in parks and they offered me to stay in their homes. So I saw how it looks like, how they live really in their houses. And yeah, that's my favorite country. I like them a lot. They're so nice people. And many times I thought when I watched that, every day I wrote some articles because every day I discover something new and I wanted to tell about that because I felt like it's my obligation to share that, what I learn about that country, because we know very little about them. And many times I thought the Japanese are proof what human beings can reach, like highest level of everything. In their behavior, in their relationship, in their way, in their technology, everything. So I'm now writing book about Japan. And one interesting thing, you can live in Japan as a nomad very, very cheap, less than $10 a day, because they give you a lot of opportunities if you don't have money. They have everywhere convenience stores and they're cheap, like 7-Eleven. Also, they have $1 stores. In the evening, you have discounts like 50-60% on all food. And if you know all that tricks, you can live very, very cheap there. And of course, if you don't pay for transport, so if you cycle or hitchhike, if you sleep in campgrounds or in tent, what is free, and use for shower, you use public toilets, and also you can use free Wi-Fi in front of any convenience store. So it was surprising for me that I spent less money there than in some cheap countries.
Good tips. So you think you could do it on $10 per day? No problem.
Yeah. Many cyclists. It's not only mine experience. I know at least 3 cyclists with same experience. If you don't pay for accommodation, yeah.
We haven't yet talked about your bike, so let's talk about the bikes for a moment, because now around this time things are going well for you. I think you've even attracted a potential sponsor here who gives you, essentially, I'll say, gives you a bike. So let's first tell me about the bike that you started on, this old 8-speed mountain bike.
Yeah, that was my first bike was a 30 years old mountain bike, Bottecchia, Italian brand. A friend of mine gave it to me for free, And he told me it cost about $40 US dollars in that time. I had my bike Trek, what was trekking bicycle, but I sold it. I sold everything before I started. I kept only my apartment. So that Trek I had, it wasn't for touring. And then I started on my Boteki. It had 8 speeds. Yeah. But frame was great. Frame was chromoly frame, made from Columbus tubes. They're famous. And it was very, very strong bicycle. But the other parts, they were very poor quality. I remember somewhere in Turkey, I think, my shifter just broke on the road. And, they just broke and I stayed with no shifters. In Russia, my pedals, they were broken also. But anyway, I cycled 33,000 kilometers on that bicycle. I climbed Himalaya, 5,416 meters above sea level. And I passed the Gobi Desert on that bicycle. And what to say? I mean, in Serbia, we say you win with your heart, not weapons.
And you had the traditional 4 bags, the 2 on the front and the 2 on the back?
Yeah, it's super heavy, like tank. I hate that, but I cannot reduce my weight. In my right bag, I carry sleeping pad. It's bedroom. Sleeping pad, sleeping bag, pillows, active sleeping pajamas and things like that. My left bag is for clothes and front is kitchen. I carry a lot of food, always. And I have one middle bag where I carry my tent and my mat from foam. Depends of my setting in that time. If I cycle in tropical areas, of course, I don't have big sleeping bag, a fat one. I have just tiny one. And then I put my laptop and gadgets in that bag. If I cycle like now in cold areas, I put it back in the middle. So my bike with all baggage, it's weight about 60 kilos. And of course, I have handlebar bag with camera, documents, stuff like that, GoPro camera and, stickers and all that. So heavy.
Then I think you switched over to was it a Surly long haul trucker?
Mm-hmm.
And is that the bike that you still have?
Yeah. In 2016, after my second book, From the Road, I actually made Indiegogo campaign, crowdfunding for first time to buy a real touring bicycle. And I wanted to collect $1,500. But then happened that a friend of mine, I actually didn't know that in that time he was working in big company in Serbia and he watched my interview on TV. And I just meant to mention in that interview that I need money for new bicycle. And then they call me and they offer me to pay half of that price. So gave me like $1,000 and $1,000 I collect in my crowdfunding. So I bought, Surly, and I put really good gears and everything, the best I wanted that I put in. And I still have all that, yeah. And, it's a huge difference when you cycle on real touring bicycle and when you have something like second hand, what costs like $40.
So the long haul trucker is doing well for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have to write them to say that I'm really satisfied.
Now, next you take some time off to work teaching English in China, maybe you needed a break or maybe you wanted to try to earn some money. But what was your experience like working in a job in China?
Yeah, that's funny. China is such a complex country. I ran out of money in Japan. Anyway, I spent $10, but I didn't plan to stay a long time, 6 months in Japan. My plan was to stay 3 months, but then I fall in love with Japan and I extend my staying for next 3 months. And I ran out of my budget. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to teach in China because, doesn't matter. I'm not native speaker in China. I'm trying to stay political correct in everything what I say. In China, it's enough if you're white and speak some English. It was enough. I'm not sure how is now situation there, but it was enough to find a job. So I met a guy who was Pakistani or India. I'm not sure. I don't remember well. And he was brown skin. He was a Harvard student, but he couldn't find job in tier 1 cities in China. So no job for him in Shanghai, Beijing, only in Urumqi, what is north and west, a horrible place to stay. And it's very cold there. And I remember first time when I passed through China, I reached China in 2012 or 13, I traveled for 3 months and I met him and he complained a lot about that because, a Ukrainian girl or Russian girl who is white and blonde, she will get job in tier 1 cities in China. And it was enough. And they don't even hide that. In their ad, you always see like condition, white skin and handsome. And it's crazy. It's really crazy. They pay you actually to be white monkey. And I've been working there for over 1 year. First 6 months I spent in primary school, and their primary school, their classes are over 70 students. You can't do anything. And that's once a week. Only your job is to keep them somehow calm. You don't make a big noise. And then you prepare like YouTube videos, some songs and something, because it's impossible to do anything. I don't speak Chinese. They don't speak English. They don't have assistant to help to you. So it's just like marketing stuff. About marketing. And then I got offer from one private kindergarten, and I moved there for better salary, of course. And I've been working there for maybe 7-8 months. And it was, of course, much better if you talk about conditions, but it still was impossible to do anything because you have kids of 2 years. They don't speak Chinese. You can't teach them English. You spend like all semester to teach them to say their names or to say how old are they. And that's everything. But all parents, they want to have a Native American teacher. And of course, we sell ourselves, all people who works there, they sell themselves like Americans. Yeah. And they know that's not true, but
Yeah. So you're basically what we would call a babysitter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was fun, good fun, because you have to care about them, to jump with them, to sing songs. And okay, we had in private school, we have Chinese assistant who speaks English. So he care about them. And it's nice and it's well paid. That's the reason why people are going there, why they stay there, because you can save a lot of money. If for non-natives, it's about at least as a beginner, you can save $1,500 a month. If you're native, it's double. And with years, of course, it's getting better for you and conditions are better and you can save much more money. So many travelers stop there, just earn money, stay for 6 months, 1 year, and they collect like 10,000, 12,000, 20,000, and they continue traveling. It's easy money.
And so that's what you did. And I guess probably after a year, you were getting some itchy feet and ready to get back on the road. So I think next you end up in North Korea, which I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who's cycled in North Korea before. How did that trip come about, number one? And then what was your experience like there?
It's not real cycling. They have that. They offer like cycling tour, but it's maybe we cycle, 1 hour a day. And all other time we spent in bus with our guides. North Korea is actually, it's very easy to go there if you have money and if you are not American or South Korean, because it's forbidden for you to go there. But for all other nations, it's very easy. You just apply online. There are many agencies, travel agencies. They offer tours, and they're foreigner agencies. They run by foreigners, and they cooperate with Korean travel agencies. And all Korean travel agencies, they refer to Kim Jong-un. So everything is controlled, of course. And when you apply, it's incredibly expensive. For 7 days of, let's say, cycling tour, I paid 1,600 euros, what is $1,800, plus, I don't know, some ads for single room. So about 2,000 for 7 days, including everything. When you apply and make payment in advance, of course you pay, that's it. That's everything. And then you apply for visa. It's painless also. It's online applying. You just sign that you are not journalist, that you are not reporter or something like that. They approve your visa. I'm not sure do they control, but I come from country they don't have any interest with Serbians. So probably it's different for Serbs and for US citizens. Okay, I know that now it's forbidden for US citizens to go there, but in that time it wasn't. It still was possible to go there. And then they don't give you visa like, usually common visas in Asian countries are stickers. They took a whole page in your passport. But in North Korea, you get a separate like piece of paper at the border, and everything is there. All information about you, about your staying there, about your visa, and they put stamp in that paper. And when you leave country, you have to leave that paper at the border. So no proofs that you ever visit Korea. And that's actually good, because if I have in my passport stamp of Korea, I will probably have problem when I want to reach to enter South Korea or Japan or US. So it's painless. I thought, I didn't want to watch a lot of YouTubes and to have like stereotypes about Korea. But anyway, I was afraid because going to North Korea for me was like investment. I wanted to write book about Korea because in Serbia we don't have books about Korea. Not many people visit that country, and nobody write about that. So I wrote about that. I'm kind of public person, and if they check anything, they could very easily find what my intention was, but they didn't check anything. I hope, yeah. Anyway, I entered with no any problem. And there were 3 of us in that group, one very young Australian guy. He was only 90, and one guy from Greece. And they weren't interested in anything. They just wanted to cycle, while I asked a lot of questions. In Korea, you cannot go anywhere by yourself. You're always followed by 2 guides, and they're real guides. They're touristic guides. They speak really good English. They're well-educated people. I was surprised how they're well-educated. I had that stereotype that they will watch me to just, if I make some mistake, they will like prisoner me. But no, it's actually opposite. Guides are your best friends in Korea. If you make any mistake, that's their fault. If it's something their fault, they will have problem, and their families will have problem. So their interest is to repeat many times the same rules for you till you don't remember that well. And what they ask you is to show respecting for their country. Doesn't matter how funny some rules sounds to you or no sense in some rules, because some rules, they just exist like that. There are no any sense. For example, 2 nights we were staying in hotel in Pyongyang, and that hostel is like 2 towers, and they are connect with bridge. And in one tower, all foreigners are staying. In another tower, staying local guides and Korean people, rich Korean people. And we went to dinner with our guides, and they told us, okay, our rooms were on 33th floor, while a restaurant was on 43th floor. And when we reached that place, restaurant, I had my camera, And I wanted to take photo because they don't have enough electricity there. And half of city was in dark. And I wanted to take photo of that. But they told me, no way, don't take photo. It's forbidden here. But it doesn't make sense because the same photo I can take from my 33 floor, I see the same. But it's just like that. And my group, I can say we have a luck because we had also third guide from that foreigner company. He's an Australian guy who follows us for first 4 days. So I could ask him everything what I couldn't ask our guides. And he is touring guide to Korea for last 3 or 4 years. So he knows a lot. And everything what was for me like forbidden to ask my guides, I asked that Elliot, and I got, I think, good answers from all that people.
So for you, the decision to spend the $2,000 was an investment for writing purposes.
Yeah, because I didn't see anything actually new, what I didn't know from former communist countries. It's not that worse like Western media climbs, and it's not that good like local Korean media climbs. It's not bad, but it's not good. I won't never live there because it's kind of prison.
You had, after North Korea, you had the opportunity to cycle in South Korea. And from what I hear about South Korea is they have those cycle paths that you can cycle without any cars. That sounds just so amazing. Were you on one of those, and what was your experience?
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's the best country in Asia, maybe in the world, for cyclists, because in 2011, they started that project for rivers, and they built thousands of kilometers of cycling paths only for cyclists, not cars, not anything. And for example, you can cycle from Seoul, what I did, from Seoul to Busan, what is 750 or 800 kilometers on bike path, without cars and traffic. And they have great infrastructure there, toilets, machines with refreshing drinks, campsites, roundabouts, bridges. They have tunnels with music, cycling tunnels with music. You can't believe that. It's really paradise and they're kind of obsessed about outdoor activities in Korea. A lot of people cycling and going outside, and it's amazing. Every day after they work, they hang out to the parks, and they pitch tents there, or they rent tents, they bring, or they rent. It's incredible cheap, like $2 for renting tents. And then they just make barbecue or just spend time there with their friends, with their family. And they really, really like outdoors. And according to my experience in Asian countries, I visit a lot of Asian countries. 3 nations are absolutely crazy about nature. I mean, crazy in positive meaning. Japanese, South Koreans, and Russians. They will always choose to go to the nature. That's amazing, really.
Around this time, there is a show, I've never heard of it, Life of Stories. I guess it's a famous show in Serbia. You appeared as a guest on this show. Did you enjoy that experience? That was my first question. But what I want to know is, did any opportunities from that experience come about for you?
Yeah, that show, it's cut now. It doesn't exist more. Unfortunately, I didn't know for that show because it started after I took road, but I know for that journalist because she's kind of famous in Serbia, and that show is popular. It was popular like Oprah show in US. Yeah, it was nice because I think we had really nice talk in that show, like 1 hour, I think it lasted. But it brought me thousands of new followers. I sold half of my edition of that book about North Korea in just 3 days after that show, but nothing more. Nothing more. I'm not sure why, but I don't have luck with sponsors, and probably I don't know how to do that, but I have luck with ordinary people who support me a lot. So they just bought in next 3 days because it was on 27 or 28 of December before New Year. So in next 3 days before New Year, I also gave some discount for my books, and they bought like thousands of issues. So it was really good.
It's probably better that way to have regular people.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because I met a lot of cyclists on the road, of course, and some of them, they have sponsors, and they always told me that it's very, very hard job to have sponsors, to find them and to cooperate with them because you're not independent.
So now we're in year 8. You fly over to South America. I think you start in Ushuaia, and it doesn't look like you got very far, but what was those early days like of starting cycling in South America?
Yeah, I flew on 31st of December 2019 to Ushuaia from Belgrade for New Year, actually. And I spent New Year there. And on January 4th or 5th, I start cycling from Ushuaia, from Patagonia to Alaska. Yeah, it's Pan America. The biggest challenge for me there was in Patagonian Steppe. They call it here Pampas. It's nothing. It's thousands of miles of nothing. And that's not the worst part. The worst part is wind. Wind is here always blowing from north. So it's very hard, very strong wind. And sometimes it's like 40, 50 kilometers an hour wind. And my bicycle is altogether 60 kilos. I'm about 65, 70 kilos. But sometimes I couldn't stand and hold my bicycle. It's so strong wind. And here, long distance cyclists, they usually choose opposite direction. They cycle from north to south because they know for that. And when they cycle this direction, very common is to hitchhike with bicycles. So I met many people hitchhiking on the road with their bicycle. It's quite easy to stop someone to take a ride because they know. And the funniest thing is that wind is blowing only in summertime, you know. But you can cycle in Patagonia only in summertime. So now it's almost winter here and no wind at all, but it's cold. So it's a big challenge, yeah.
Yeah, what happened to you as the travel restrictions started to happen? Were you sort of forced to stop?
No, not really. I was let's say wild when all that about coronavirus started. I didn't have information. They don't have Wi-Fi signal there, or if they have, it's very, very slow, very bad signal, poor signal. So I couldn't check news, and I don't mind usually for news. I just knew that some virus somewhere exists. Nobody expect that here. And then I was on Carretera Austral, what is the famous road here. Then when I reached Cerro Castillo, what is first place close to civilization, I got internet, Wi-Fi signal, and then I was surprised what's happening. And already we had here in Patagonia, in Chile and Patagonia, in one place I skipped. They had first case from big ship in Tortal, what is famous place, and that cruiser stopped there, and one UK old guy, he's old 83 years, he had the virus, and they brought him by helicopter to this place where I am here. It's Coyhaique. It's the capital city of province, Aysén, to the hospital, and they put in quarantine all city. And that was good decision because we still have after 2 months later, so now it's 2 months later, we still have actually in meantime we had like 7 cases, but now it's 0. And we're the best in Chile. As far as I know, they close the borders of country and also borders of provinces because, you know, Chile is quite on map. When you watch Chile, it's quite narrow but very long country, and they have very strictly you can see they have provinces, and borders are geographical borders. So it's very easy to isolate any of that provinces if you want to. And they isolate this province. And I know that some people are still on the road. They stop for 1 month, and then recently they decide, okay, they will continue. But also I know for some cases where people in this province, they were stopped by gendarmes, and they told them, no, you can't go northern or southern because provinces around are locked down. So nobody told me you have to stop. I just decided that when I reach this place, because this place is capital city of that province, they have big hospital. They have everything you need to stay. Only problem is it's very expensive. Patagonia is a very expensive place, and it's expensive even for Chileans. I mean, Chile is a very expensive country. For example, here you cannot rent a small apartment less than $400, what is a lot even for US or Canada. And you don't get good conditions like in Canada or US. And food is also expensive, but yeah, what's that? Yeah, it's Patagonia. So I am going to stay here till the end of all this, and it's still rising. That number is still rising. They have more and more cases every day, especially in Santiago and that central provinces. I'm doing what I can do in this situation. I'm writing my new book, and I try to spend that time to be creative and to, in the end, have something more than in the beginning. So it's not bad so far. We'll see.
When you look back to the beginning, and I guess up to where you are now, do you have any regrets about making the decision 9 years ago to start this adventure?
No, I don't. My only regret was that I didn't start doing that earlier because I was afraid of everything. I didn't know, actually. I think the best sentence ever I heard since I am on the road, especially, is you have to watch things in a way what you will do if you knew that you couldn't fail, because you couldn't fail. If you don't give up, you couldn't fail. That's such a simple rule, but you can't know that before you try.
What about the journey are you most proud of?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I thought about that from very beginning, of course, and I changed my opinion with time. But now I can say that last 2 or 3 years, I feel the most proud of that I was enough brave to show toward my true face. Not too ashamed that I'm different and special in my own way, because all my life I never wanted to have normal life, to, live like in common way, to have family, to have kids, to have a regular job. And I tried to do that, and I wasn't actually satisfied with that. So I was enough brave to just be what I am. And that's the most important thing for all people. You need to be what you are, not what others expect of you or what they impose on you. But it's difficult.
I think what you're saying is that you're proud to be living the life that you want to live, and you're not living someone else's dream for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Snežana, how can people contact you or find you online if they want to learn more?
There is my blog. Yeah. It's difficult to spell it, Snežana Radojičić. Also, they can send me mail, or they can find me on social media. Just type Cyclonomad, but first 3 letters are different. It's not like in English spelling. It's CIK Nomad, Cyclonomad.
Snežana Radojičić, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. It's quite an adventure, 9 years so far. So whenever you get started again on your way to Alaska, I wish you the best of luck, and stay warm, I guess, in the winter down in Chile until you get out of there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again for listening. This episode was recorded on May 11th, 2020. To send me some feedback, my email address is paul@thepursuitzone.com. You can also leave me a voice message by going to speakpipe.com/thepursuitzone. The best way to support the podcast is to be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. For subscription links, show notes, and more, visit thepursuitzone.com.